Thanks for joining us today, guys. Today we are joined by Dorian Lam and excited for him to share a little bit about his story. Dorian, you mind introducing yourself to the audience to get us started?
Hi, Liam. Number one, first and foremost, thank you for having me on the Prosperity Podcast. I'm honored to be here and looking forward to sharing my story. To answer your question, I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I've been here all my life, and went to NYU here for school and started my career as a management consultant, and ended up in the title insurance business through acquisition. I did some consulting for a company that was acquired by First American Title, which is at that, well, it's one of the oldest. It's probably the oldest right now still, and at the time of the acquisition was the oldest and biggest. So I've been in title since then, and that total period was about, man, now you're making me think back, close to 20 years, right? But the first half of it was spent in the back office, doing project management and sticking to what I was trained in, which was management consulting. And I got the opportunity to understand the front office side of it, or the sales side of it, about 8 years ago, when my then boss, president of First American New York, broke off and started his own firm, and had the opportunity to get under his wing and learn what I was spending all those years building, and how it tied to an end user and why they cared about it. So learned the sales side of it. That particular individual sold his company after 5 years, and I was at that point part of my second sale, and I had an opportunity to join Cornerstone Land Abstract, which is where I am now as a partner, in hopes of building it and maybe one day getting that to a sale as well. So that has been about we're on 5 years now, where I've been a partner here at Cornerstone and an owner. And I'll leave the rest to the remainder of this discussion because I know you're going to touch on
it. So you hear a lot about management consultants who end up going client side. Did you, when you went into management consulting, did you know you'd be in real estate or title or anything like that? Or was that just, fortuitous, one of your first assignments and kind of led you down this path?
Oh, I mean, completely unplanned, right? I first went into management consulting simply because I was into technology at that time. And, look, I'm dating myself here, but, this is 20 plus years ago when we were high schoolers trying to figure out what we were going to do. And I knew computers was going to be a big part of life. It had already become impactful through the final years of school. And the natural progression would be that all the companies and businesses would be using it. So how do we teach companies how to use it, or how do we implement, or how do we help them change their environments to include technology? At that point in time was PCs. So I did management consulting, and that had its own process in itself. It was very organized. I worked for one of the big three at that point in time, and during their training process, they figure out where you kind of fit, and you do a rotation of sorts in terms of industry. And I ended up in entertainment and media, which is completely unrelated to real estate, where I ended up. But through that journey, ended up in real estate.
So diving in, the question we like to ask, right, is once you reach that point of profitability, you've got an extra cash flow coming in, you don't have to worry about food on the table, roof over the head. What did you start to invest in, right? And obviously you went on this journey where, working for one of the biggest through acquisition, working through another acquisition, right? Now you're positioning probably for an exit at some point with the company as well, right? What did you kind of go after first, and what was your strategic framework, right? Coming from a management consulting background of, hey, where do I put the money, and what goal was that leading you towards?
Yeah, this may be a surprise, but at the same time, I don't think it is, because I'm going to guess that most of your speakers, listeners are, or have done a variety of this. Now, when I was part of that second sale, what I realized is, and once I had the opportunity to become a partner and an owner at my current shop, which is Cornerstone Land Abstract, the pressure was really on in terms of, look, now I'm an owner. Now I have 25 employees under me. So there's a different type of pressure that was really on me at that point in time. And what I really focused on to get to the point was, how do I become a better performer? How do I become a better individual? How do I do all the things that I've always envisioned an owner to be? And that really led me down a path of, how do I take better care of myself? It had me take a look at not just my industry, not just real estate, but just performers in general, and what was the common line between them all. And the common line for all top performers is that they have help, they have coaches, they have a system for, or a advisor for, pretty much every piece of what they do. So in the case of performance, who are my mindset coaches? And these are terminologies that are kind of flowing out of me now. But when I first kind of embarked on looking at and discovering this, these terminologies were completely foreign to me. But how do I actually, what are the fundamentals of performing? Things like sleep. Are you measuring your sleep? Are you doing what you need to do from that perspective? Things like getting a mindset coach and doing what you need to do on that end. And how are you impacting that? And then also, business coaches, sales coaches. What are the other type of helpful elements that impact your daily basis that you can fold into your everyday process? So it really became investing in yourself. What could I learn? What could I bring in? What could I support? Who can come in and help make me better at what I'm doing, so that I can do better overall.
Which one of those did you start with, right? And how did you discover that, hey, this was something that I needed and a path I wanted to go down?
Yeah, well, it really started from the core, which is that, one of the things I did not mention in my kind of history or background was that I did play baseball. I was an athlete during my younger years, and I had a quick kind of flash in the pan as far as doing mixed martial arts as well, helping guys kind of get ready for their fights, not myself fighting, but being part of training camps. And it was something I had lost sight of. But performance was the natural inclination, because I had a existing network around guys that I can hit up and say, what are you doing best at our age to help continue your productivity and your performance. So ironically enough, it's things that are so obvious that you just completely neglect them. But how much sleep are you getting? To go back to that, what are you reading? What's your routine from the perspective of being not so much fit, but being functional, feeling good about movement, being confident about anything that you have to do. So it really started with that, and that led into mindset coaching, because there's a lot of going on in the performance world in terms of just even having the right paradigm, thinking positively about things, aligning yourself with positive energy, understanding that at the end of the day, it's all energy that we're all connected to, and you have to be intentional about being part of the positive energy and getting rid of anything that's toxic or taking your time away in a negative way.
When you talk about performance, I'm assuming that you're talking about health, wellness, kind of overall body performance for best mental, output, so to speak. So you're on your game at any point in time, both physically and mentally. Is that accurate?
Yeah, but they are one and the same, because the more energy you have and the more focused you are in general, it trickles down. And I shouldn't say trickle down, because it makes it sounds like work is secondary. But it trickles down from the perspective of that the time that you put into it, the level of focus and concentration you end up applying to work, and you end up finding that you get things done quicker and that your energy is better. So Tim Ferriss famously wrote the 4-hour work week, and it's true, because once you use that focus and energy to condense your day, you get more done. And when you realize when you perform better, just even in terms of scheduling, right? So when are you a peak performer, in the morning or in the afternoon? And everybody's different, but it's recognizing that and kind of compacting all the things that you need to get done, during that time that you're most productive. And you'll be amazed that once you get that out of the way. And I mean, when I get out of the way, not so much as in the nuance, but get out of the way in terms of the things that really help you move the needle. That the rest of your day is, you have a type of freedom that you never realized you had before. So it all kind of trickles down, and even some of the work that we do in business development, that takes energy, right? If you're doing that second half of the day, you got to be a frame of mind to be able to do that. And you being on the hard money lending side, Liam, you would know this as well, that we're in the business of meeting people, and you have to be you know intentional and mindful when you meet people, right? You and I have been through this where, um, whether it be a networking event or not, in the course of a day, you could have 20 plus conversations, right? You got to be of the mental capacity to, be intentful with every single one of those conversations, and listen, right? And take notes and so on and so forth. So there's a level of fitness that's involved with that. So it all trickled down. It did start with that though.
What does your routine look like today? So probably had some time to optimize and get to, what you think is ideal for you. What does that look like?
Yeah. So up every day at 5, right? I'm in the gym at 5:30. I'm back showered up at 7:15. This can change because obviously with young kids, that can throw a wrench into everything in terms of where they are in school. But we're going to talk about right now because it's summer. I'm putting in the meditation between 7:15 and 7:30, and then we're hitting email and seeing or my calendar. I start my day with my calendar and seeing what is ahead of me, the day, the 3 days, and the week. Making sure that I got my ducks in a row with that. Um, then it's into the office. It's banging out everything that needs to be done, including things like this, which is having good conversations with the likes of you, making sure that the company is running in the fashion that it needs to run, making sure that my appointments are being made, and that I'm doing the things that I've deemed that are impactful for me. So for example, with connecting people. So am I connecting people? Am I trying to make sure move some action out there from a real estate perspective, that can end up leading to business for me? So we're in the business of meeting people, and we're in the business of finding deals. And that's what my day looks like. The second half of my day is typically, especially now during the summer, dedicated to my wife and kids. So get home as early as I can and make sure there's some FaceTime before we have to wrangle them for sleep.
So it sounds like three main elements that you've talked about, right? Sleep, some sort of fitness, working out, and mindfulness. If you were to pick one of those as a starting point from doing nothing to start doing something, what would that one piece that you would leave for others be?
So you mean that from the perspective of what advice would I give somebody in terms of picking one of those?
Yeah. So say I'm an overworked entrepreneur who's working, 80 to 120 hours a week, and I'm not, I'm short on sleep. I'm not working out. I don't have a mindfulness practice. Which one should I start with?
Yeah. So again, that's a loaded one, right? The way you described it, right? I mean, the 80 to 120 hours a week is probably where I would start. But either way, I'm going to assume that the person has realized that they need to find some time to do something. James Clear wrote a book on atomic habits, and things really do start with small pieces and small movements. It's not about today I'm gonna not eat any meat, or today I'm not gonna or not even a day, right? It's not about just the immediate turning on of a switch of sorts. It really is about building good habits that lead into bigger ones. And it could be as simple as just waking up at an earlier time and getting something done that grounds you, whether it's meditation, whether it's jumping jacks. It could be a walk outside, get some sun. It could be any of that, right? Just get your body acclimated to a situation in which you're setting yourself up for the rest of your day, right? And this ended up culminated into and it's not like this every day, but there was times where my workouts would get extremely hard because I was just following the philosophy that if nothing is harder than my workout, then and I'm getting that done at 6 in the morning, the rest of the day is going to be extremely easy, right? So that's kind of where you want to lead, where you want to set yourself up for the rest of the day and be as optimal as you can.
So as we go to present time, right now, you've got your habits in place, your company's doing well, starting to expand, starting to position for exit. Right, as you think of that extra profitability today, right? Obviously, you're spending a lot of that time, right, which is one of our most important commodities or resources, right? That you've it sounds like that's the key factor that you are maximizing for. Beyond that, as you start to look at time and money, right? Like, how are you thinking about investing, and where you put that time and money based on your strategic framework now?
Yeah, and I guess the one word answer for that would be align, right? It's you and I in a conversation before this podcast spoke about what I would do differently today, what would I do differently today that I didn't do before. And I said having a North Star and having some sort of plan in mind with regards to what direction you're going in. And the same could be applied with regards to where all your listeners careers are professionally, that you've reached a certain point where what's the most efficient thing I can do now. And what I mean by that is aligning what your North Star is and figuring out whether or not there's a progression that is a logical next step to what you've already built, right? So here's kind of the easy example that many get, right? And when you first start your, in my case, career as a business developer, you're in essence you're looking to get business from anyone, right? It didn't matter. You didn't have any kind of criteria. But if you're doing business, then let me do it for you. And if you program it right, you ascend up the ladder where you can get to a point where you can begin to surround yourself with like-minded guys and make that criteria. You can start establishing criteria about the type of people you deal with, whether or not you like them, whether or not their philosophies match with yours, whether or not their philosophies and moral compass matches with your company. And that's that's what I mean by aligning. And this is just one example. You can align in other areas as well, right? In terms of what's the thing that I can learn, or what's the thing that I can bring to the table that helps not just myself personally, but helps the group as a whole move in the right direction, right? So, when you're part of title insurance, and I'm going to guess if you're in the hard money space, you have an idea of what title insurance is, that it's a very small piece of the real estate transaction. And when you're building a title company, you don't think of it that way. You just think of it as how do we get as much title business as we humanly can. But when you get the chance to kind of take a step back, it is now how you get involved in real estate in a way that can now correlate to either moving up the fee pole or ladder, and still being able to get title work because it's something that you already have established and set up. So just in my kind of core immediate network business partners, we've had we obviously have attorneys that help us in our space, but some of our attorneys that are very close friends have become developers. So it's about vertically integrating, right? So that's another version of Align, right? What are the things that we can bring to the table? I have a business partner that's astute at finding deals, right? So if you find a deal, you kind of are bringing the golden pot to either the clients that you have existing in the title insurance world, where owner and developers are always looking for that. Now I'm trying to progress in an area where if I can help raise equity, that's impactful to my client base. And that's kind of climbing up the ladder from the fee perspective, but in all those scenarios, it all trickles back down to the title insurance company, where you can capture different areas by just building up in the right way. So obviously, every real estate transaction needs an attorney. If you bring in a deal, you have kind of the deal fee on that. If you bring in the equity, you have an equity fee on that, and you kind of cover more than one. Doesn't mean you're hitting them all, but you're putting yourself in a position where you can hit on more than one. And in our case, at the very least, we're getting a piece of the title, right? So it's having that mentality. And in one of the things that I didn't think of when even charting this out is the people that you're meeting and the discussions that you're in, that now you're sitting in discussions where you're talking about deals, and now you're sitting in discussions with guys who have deals, who need um, help, not just from the equity side. These are friends and family, where it's like, why don't you invest in the deal? So now we're looking at deals from the perspective of, LP investments, so on and so forth. Maybe we're getting involved with them. We see deals from the title side that don't get to the finish line, right? So is that a potential opportunity where we could take it to, that said lawyer that became a developer, or one of our developer owner clients that would like that deal, and you partner up on it, and you move it forward. So it kind of opens a whole new world just from that simple process of aligning, in terms of figuring out what your North Star is and trying to connect the dots backwards, where you progress, and where what's at the foundation, which is in my case, title companies, still exist and runs.
So if you were to distill it down, what's the one most exciting thing you're working on today in your mind? What gets you excited in the morning to be like, I am excited to tackle this?
It's what I had mentioned a couple of times about what we do, which is meeting people and finding deals, right? I mean, how it's the hunter mentality, right? It's from the deal side, but meeting people is essentially what gets me up every morning, because you don't know who you're going to meet. You obviously know the people that you've already met. There's obviously people I want to brainstorm with, have a conversation with, connect with, catch up. So look, it really is meeting people, right? And the kind of overused metaphor here, which is applicable here, is your network, your net worth is your your network, and you never know who you're going to meet. You never know how it's going to be impactful, not just professionally, but potentially personally as well. So that's what we're in the business of doing, and I actually enjoy that, especially when you come out of a time where we were all locked down, and everybody was nervous about coming within 6 feet of a human. That you realize how much human connectivity and connection is needed for us to function properly. So I'm happy that that I get the chance to actually do that in a way for a living. So that's really what kind of gets me up.
That's awesome. And Dorian, for folks who want to connect back with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find me at cornerstonelandabstract.com. I also have a personal website, dorianlam.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on most social media. And I do have a white paper that's coming out. If it hasn't come out already, in the next few days, so I'll make sure to share that with you, and you can share that with your network.
Awesome, Dorian. Appreciate the time and the insights today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me again, Liam.